This week's Torah portion is called Neso, meaning to elevate. It can be found in Numbers chapter 4, verse 21 through chapter 7 and verse 89. The Haftorah can be found in Judges chapter 13, verses 2 through 25. The reading of the Psalms is Psalms 92 and 93. And the New Testament portion can be found in Acts chapter 21, verses 17 through 26. Let's dip into the reading, shall we? I wanted to start off with just continuing on from last week, because that's where Numbers starts off with, and they're counting the priesthood, and they're giving them, God is giving Moses the instruction on which each tribe is supposed to be doing. Each family is supposed to be doing, I'd rather say. This goes back into what was taught on Shabbat, that God places members in the body as He will. You may not know what your job is going to be right now, but let God have His will and His way, because His will and His way is always right and just. Now, if we jump into chapter 6 of Numbers, it begins to speak on the Nazirite vow. And it starts off by saying, "And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the people of Israel, and say to them, when either a man or a woman makes a special vow, the vow of a Nazirite, to separate himself to the Lord, he shall separate himself from wine and strong drink. He shall drink no vinegar made from wine or strong drink, and shall not drink any juice of grapes, or eat grapes, eat grapes fresh or dry. All the days of his separation he shall eat nothing that is produced by the grapevine, not even the seeds or the skins. All the days of his vow of separation, no razor shall touch his head until the time is completed for which he separates himself unto the Lord. He shall be holy. He shall let the locks of his head grow long. All the days that he separates himself to the Lord, he shall not go near a dead body, not even for his father or for his mother or brother or sister. If they die, shall he make himself unclean, because his separation to God is on his head. All the days of his separation he is holy to the Lord." Let's just go over the Nazirite vow. The Nazirite vow, as we can see, is a fast. It is a specific fast, which you can have for, just like any fast, it is for a particular time that you made a vow to the Lord. Why do we say you made a vow? Because when you're fasting, you are vowing that you will not touch or do certain things for a certain period of time. That is a specific fast. In this particular fast, the person, whether it be man or woman, who is making that separation, I want to make that very clear, that either man or woman can make that vow and do a fast of separation. What is the importance of having such a vow made, or having this type of a fast made? It is to become more closer to the Lord. I know there are times where if you look in the scriptures, you'll see where Yeshua himself would separate himself from the disciples for a small period of time, because he needed to become closer to the Father, which is always fascinating to me, because how close can you get when you're Yeshua himself? But he needed time to get recharged, basically, trying to recharge spiritually. So this is something that we should definitely take serious when we look at a vow, a Nazirite vow, or a vow of separation. As a matter of fact, the word Nazirite means, I think I hit the wrong word. Okay, the word Nazirite means to separate, or consecrated one, or devotee, or Nazarite, or an untrimmed vine. This is why this is called a Nazarite vow. It is truly a fasting vow. Again, anyone can do this and should do this. It doesn't have to be all the days of your life, but it does have to be some time where you need to step back, recharge yourself, get closer to God. What is the purpose of it? Because if something can happen, let's say you fall into sin, and of course we know that daily we sin. We miss the mark somewhere, somehow. But let's just say you fall into something even more so. What better way than to separate yourself, recharge, get renewed, have a consecration, allow God to manifest himself through you. Let his spirit grow. Allow him to give you discipline. Allow him to teach, instruct, all the things that Torah is. This is what's supposed to be going on during this time of separation, during this type of a fast. And the scripture goes on to say in verse 13 that and this is the law for the Nazarite, when the time of his separation has been completed, he shall be brought to the entrance of the tent of meeting, and he shall bring his gift to the Lord. One male lamb, a year old without blemish, for a burnt offering, and one ewe lamb, a year old without blemish, as a sin offering, and one ram without blemish, as a peace offering, and a basket of unleavened bread, loaves of fine flour, mixed with oil, and unleavened wafers, smeared with oil, and their grain offering, and their drink of offering. And the priest shall bring them before the Lord, and offer his sin offering and his burnt offering, and he shall offer the ram as a sacrifice of peace offering to the Lord, and with the basket of unleavened bread, and the priest shall offer also its grain offering and drink offering, and the Nazarite shall shave his consecrated head at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and shall take the hair from his consecrated head and put it on the fire that is under the sacrifice of the peace offering, and the priest shall take the shoulder of the ram when it is boiled, and one unleavened loaf out of the basket, and one unleavened wafer, and shall put them on the hands of the Nazarite, after he has shaved his head of his hair of his consecration. And the priest shall wave them for a wave offering before the Lord. They are a holy portion for the priest, together with the breast, and that is waved, and the thigh that is contributed, and that the Nazarite may drink wine. This is the law of the Nazarite. But if he vows an offering to the Lord above his Nazarite vow, he can afford, in exact accordance with the vow that he takes, then he shall do in addition to the law of the Nazarite. So there is a time where the fasting ends, and of course, as we see here, there are certain things that is supposed to be done, gifts that are supposed to be given, an offering that is supposed to be made, something to the house, and it is something that is, if you notice, it's supposed to be something that is prepared. That means you're not just giving on anything, that you truly have to put your all in all into it to bring the Lord your best, because you've now come to an end of your fasting on this. So when you come to the end of your fasting, you do your best to bring your best gift to the Lord. Let's look at the Haftorah portion, which is found in Judges, and it starts with, this is again the reading from the story of how Samson was born, and his mother, who was not named, wanted to have a son, and his father, whose name was Manoah, interesting enough, meaning rest. But his wife was barren and had no children. But an angel of the Lord appeared to the wife, the unnamed wife, and said, "You're going to have a son, and make sure, though, that your son will be a Nazarite all the days of his life. Of course, the husband was not there at the time when the angel appeared to the woman, and he prayed and said, "Look, if this is true, then have this messenger come back and speak to me. And, I want to hear his instructions as well." And again, the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman, who then ran and grabbed her husband. And, of course, the angel of the Lord was questioned. Is this what you said? Is this the truth? And the angel of the Lord said yes, and told him the same instructions, that Samson would be born and he would be a Nazarite all his life. What's interesting to me in this particular portion is just at the end in verse 25, where it says, "And the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him and Menadan between Zorah and Eshtaol." Interesting that a specific place that the Lord chose was where he said that his spirit would stir Samson. The Spirit of the Lord would begin to stir up in Samson at a particular place. One thing that we always have to remember, that the gifts of the Lord are as he wills. His Spirit moves as he wills, and he could move anywhere at any time. But I suggest whenever he moves that we pay close attention, because something is about to happen there. When we look at the New Testament portion, I always found it interesting, and David has brought this out plenty of times, which I've always loved, in Acts, where Paul meets James, and James is telling him, "Hey, there are people who are accusing you of telling others to go against the law of Moses, that you're teaching against the law of Moses," which Paul said, of course, that's not true. And so the elders come together and they tell him, "Well, since we have several people who have a vow, a Nazarite vow, go and pay their offering." Now, since we just read it in the Torah portion, that the offering is not cheap. And again, it takes time to put together. It's not something that you just go and throw together and just do. This is something that takes a thought and time. And they said there were several men who were under a vow. And then Paul himself put himself under a vow. And then he paid the offering. He gave the offering for not just himself, but all those who were with him, to prove that he was not going against the Torah. I find that very fascinating. Of course, when anyone says to you what Paul wrote, this is something that we can turn back to in Acts chapter 21. You can tell everyone here that if Paul had truly just been teaching against Torah, he never would have done this. Well, in closing, just want everybody to remember, don't take fasting for granted. It is a serious business. It is something that Yah himself takes seriously. It is a time for consecration. It is a time to allow God's Spirit to teach, to draw closer, to recharge. Because everyone, all of us need a recharge. It is a time for reflection. And then at the end, it is a time of great thanksgiving. Because you do not do all that preparation of giving without thanking the Lord. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Yah bless you and keep you, as that's the Aaronic blessing that's a part of this portion as well. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you and grant you his shalom. So they shall put my name upon the people of Israel, and I will bless them. Shabbat shalom.